All right, guys, so we're now officially recorded. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, just again, in the interest of time. And what I'll let all of you know is that we're slated to be together for between roughly 2.5 and 3 hours today, and during which we'll be kind of discussing the following objectives. So we'll start out with accessibility. And really what that means are outlined here in the objectives. So we'll start off by defining it, talking about what it means, why it's important, why it's relevant, and then we'll get into some more specifics. So common accessibility issues, specifically formatting headings, creating links and images, understanding a little bit more about tables and using our listing tools, understanding accessible documents and attachments, color contrast, video captioning types, and then, of course, those helpful materials that will ensure that you kind of know what you're doing going forward. After all of these are reached, I'll give you guys a little break, and then we will go ahead and get into your Ally widget, which is your built-in accessibility checker that you may have seen on your site workspace. So it's a meaty session, but I promise to keep it interesting. And if you guys have any questions along the way, don't be shy. Just kind of interrupt me and let me know. You have full permission to go ahead and do that, and we'll take care of any of the questions that might come up as they come up. All right, guys. So our session today is interactive at certain points. I'll be guiding you through our session on when you should be ready to get interactive versus just listen. And right now, we're actually going to go ahead and set up our workspace so that way we don't have to worry about it in the middle of our session. So I'm going to give you the instructions now because they're a little more complicated than is just on here. And then we'll go ahead and follow through on those instructions. So what you need to do is create yourself a section within any channel of your website. So if you're from different institutions, no problem. Go ahead and sign in again on the website and choose any channel to create yourself a section. Add yourself a new section and call it whatever your name is, and then accessibility practice. So mine would be Talia's accessibility practice. Ronnie's will be Ronnie's accessibility practice, etc. And when you do that, go ahead and hide that section in the channel navigation. So I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate this, and just in case any of you need a refresher. And so I'm signing in, going into the manager. I'm going to build mine in the district channel, and I'll just add a new section. I'll call it Talia's accessibility section. And then this is the part where maybe if you were unaware, it's going to be a blank section, by the way, everybody. And in the advanced tab, you'll press hide section in channel navigation, basically just ensuring that no one else will come across this channel as we're working on it. And then we'll press save. And then we'll go ahead and head into that section so that the green workspace is at the top. And when you guys are done with that, if you can just let me know in the chat box by just saying done or whatever it is.
They don't have main admin rights. They have to create a section in one of their channels, and they're free.
Yeah, let me put up those instructions again. And if you guys need me to create a channel or add directors or anything like that, just let me know.
You said you just created a blank section, that's it?
Just a blank section, yep. And then I hit it in the channel navigation.
Okay, what did you click on?
So I went to, one moment. So I went to, create new section, and then, oops, sorry about that. And then there's 2 tabs, so it'll say general, and after I named my section and pressed blank, I went to advanced, and then there's a little...
Yours says new section, and ours says new page.
So you should be creating yourself a new section, but a new page is fine. If you only have one section that you're working with, a new page is fine. Okay. And if that is the case, by the way, you'll want to go ahead and hide your page. But we can do that when we come back together.
I am like seriously lost.
I'm sorry, what is it that is confusing you?
I've gotten a school district. Do I go to training over to the right?
Training to the right.
I got like Nittyville School District.
Oh, okay, so that was the second objective here. So what you're doing is you're just following the first bullet. So you're going to your website, signing in, opening up Site Manager, and then creating yourself that blank section. This bullet, I'll explain just in a moment.
Okay, I got our web page up.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Is anybody else having challenges with that? Can I help coach you through, or are you guys all almost ready?
Okay. So we're ready here at the district office.
Okay. Awesome.
I don't know about everybody else, but
okay.
So we have a presentation. I can't chat with you.
Oh, no worries. That's okay. I can hear you loud and clear. All right, guys. So if any of you are working, just go ahead and still. Oh, great. Awesome. Okay. I see Katrina's done. So this second bullet here comes into play because you'll need to open up this tab and have it kind of chilling in the background for a little bit. We'll be using the content on this tab throughout the session today, but for now, again, you're just setting up your workspace. And so you're going to open up a new tab and type in this short link, bit.ly/WCM training. And the bit.ly/WCM training, I'm just sending it over to you guys via chat for any of you who still need it. So as I said, parts of this session are going to be interactive and parts are not. What we just did was we set up the workspace that we'll be using so that you guys can get hands-on later in the session. And for now, we're going to go ahead and get started with the actual session itself. As I said before, if you need anything, just go ahead and let me know that, either by chatting me or literally just interrupting me via phone or audio settings, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And just to let you know, Mike, we're recording this session on my end as well. So hopefully one of our recordings will be of great quality.
Awesome. Yeah. I was worried about my recording. I mean, I got my iMac signed in as recording session as the user or something like that. So, but my audio was what I was worried about.
Cool.
And the fact that QuickTime probably making a big giant file on my iMac.
Probably. That is correct. Yeah, I've got mine, and I'll send it over to you when we're done. And so, yeah, hopefully you'll have at least one good one.
Perfect.
All right, team. So we're just going to start off by having a conversation, and I'm going to get you guys really comfortable with the idea of accessibility before we try and create it. So what is it? Well, accessibility has become kind of this buzzword over the last couple of years, and it's become extremely important for all webmasters and stakeholders that use websites. So we're excited to kind of be providing you guys with information on how to make your site accessible. And really what it means is it just is a word that describes whether or not content of all types, physical, digital, etc., can be accessed by people of varying abilities and disabilities. And we've seen this for our entire lives. Ramps are added to buildings with stairs, so that way people who are not able to use stairs can get in the building. Sign language interpreters are used at large-scale events, such as sporting events or political events, so that way people who can't hear are still able to understand what's going on. Captioning on TV shows, so that way people who can't understand or hear can understand what's going on in the show. A little closer to home for this particular moment, black and white text on websites to ensure this sharp color contrast that people who are colorblind might need. And then, for educators, you can kind of think of accessibility the same way that you think about accommodating kids on things like tests or assignments or in the classroom. Really what you're doing is you're making learning or testing accessible for them as individual learners. The whole goal of this, what it all boils down to, is just equal access for all people to your website, which is obviously a very important goal for all of us to have in common. So when we talk about web accessibility specifically, we're talking about actually taking away the barriers that might prevent someone to interact with your website. And that's not just reading the website, that's interacting with the website, that's operating the website. It all needs to be fully accessible from sort of this 360 view. And the idea here is that when sites are correctly designed, or in some cases, edited, right, then all users will have that goal of equal access to information and functionality. And really what we're dealing with right now is this big shift where everyone is kind of realizing, from one reason or another, that their sites are not as accessible as they need to be. And so we're going through this big shift of everyone taking a look at their site from kind of a bird's eye view, identifying what's going on, right? What is preventing accessibility? What is preventing access? And then fixing it. And that's kind of what you guys are going to be doing right now with the help of your Ally tool and with the help of, your own accessibility training. So a little more about it. So when the internet was a while ago, right, when the internet was becoming a thing, okay, the Office of Civil Rights here in the United States got involved, fairly early on and basically said, these websites are kind of a disaster waiting to happen when it comes to accessibility. It's really difficult, right, to envision. It was difficult for them to envision somebody who, doesn't have the use of all of their senses to be able to use the internet. And so these web content accessibility guidelines were created. All right. Now, we're on the second iteration. They're called 2.0 at this time. And actually, they're going to be continuously worked on. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw 2.1 soon, etc. They're, again, authored by the United States Office of Civil Rights, but they're actually enforced internationally. They're enforced globally. So we authored them, everybody follows them. And really, they ask, or they don't just ask, they tell you that your website needs to be organized under the 4 following standards or principles. So your website needs to be perceivable, operable, understandable, with robust content to all people. What does that mean? Well, I'll go through kind of each one and give you a little preview. So when we talk about perceivable, we talk about the fact that all users need to be able to detect every piece of information on your website. Pretty soon, I'm going to show you an example of an image that is imperceivable to somebody who is not able to see it, okay? When somebody adds an image to a website and it does not have alternative text, it is considered an imperceivable image or an unperceivable image to people that are not able to see. Operable. The interface must be operable. It cannot require interactions that a user cannot perform. It's likely that you've never thought about this. 99% of my clients have never heard of this, but this actually has to do with the size of links on your page. If you have a lot of click here, the word HERE being your link, that is a non-accessible link. People with mobility issues cannot actually grasp onto that link and click it, making that an inoperable link. Understandable. The content or operation cannot be beyond the user's understanding, okay? That means exactly what it says. You cannot have content that a user doesn't understand, all right? Now, that doesn't mean language necessarily. That actually means reading comprehension level. The OCR, the Office of Civil Rights, believes that you don't need to be a scholar in order to access the content of a website, okay? So we'll talk about that. And then robust. It can be interpreted reliably by a wide variety of user agents and assistive technologies. This means that all of your content has been uploaded with accessibility in mind, thus making it easy to interpret by assistive technologies such as screen readers or other, again, technology that will help somebody understand a website if they do have a disability. So all of these, there's just a little bit of a history, again, about the accessibility standards. Again, we're on iteration 2.0. And we'll talk a little bit more about kind of the nitty gritty of this when we get to Ally later. So as far as our kind of stance on accessibility, so Blackboard started creating their own standards for accessibility within the last year or so, that we hope to kind of impart to our clients. And we believe that accessibility needs to be, your accessibility program really needs to be built on the following beliefs. So first of all, and this is really practical, I think this is a really practical thought, is that accessibility needs to be an imperative and not an afterthought. So I was a teacher, I taught for 7 years. And whenever I think about this bullet, with this point, I think about my lesson planning process, right? You'd sit down, you have every teacher has a very specific way in which they plan lessons. You think about your objective, you think about your assessment, you think about engagement, right? There's a whole flow. And for you guys who are in admin, you might think about the way that you sit down with somebody's parents, right? Or plan a staff meeting. There's a certain flow, there's a certain order in which you do things. That's what we want for you when it comes to creating your web content. There's no reason for this to be a separate process. And it should be part and parcel. So that way, when you sit down to add web content to your website, you're not just adding it and then going back later and checking for accessibility. It needs to go together, right? You need to partner your actual creation of web content with your creation of accessible web content. They should really be synonymous. Okay, secondly, so this is never really a hard sell for educators. This one's about empathy. This is just about remembering why we're doing this. So in order for your stakeholders to have access or equal access to your website, this is what we need to do, right? And it's just about recognizing that. We all believe that all people should have equal access to all content. That's a given. But it's not just about talking the talk anymore. It just can't be. It has to be about walking the walk, making sure that we're putting our money where our mouths are and actually delivering on our beliefs. And then our third standard here, or our third cornerstone, is just recognizing, this really cool position that we're in. In 2018, we have this amazing technology that can actually be used to better the lives of the people in our community. And so it's recognizing how important it is that we take advantage of that promise, and remember exactly how cool, right, the internet is for changing the world and making people's lives better. So again, these three cornerstones kind of help us to remember why we're doing this, and to stay anchored in the process. So before I get into the next part of our session together, which is kind of an exercise in empathy, is there any questions so far that we can go ahead and address?
I don't have a question, but I have an observation.
Please.
If everyone that's attending the meeting would choose mute themselves unless they and unmute themselves to ask a question, it would enhance the quality of the audio.
Cool. Okay, great. So in case you guys don't know how to do that, so there should be a little audio piece of your control panel. It might look a little different from mine because I'm leading the meeting, but somewhere there will be a green microphone, and if you press, you'll become
Not from our call-in, not on our telephones, Mike.
On your phones, you
made
can
us
do it
call in
on your
our
phone.
Right, gotcha.
So on your phone, you can do it on your phone if you just press mute on your phone.
Our phones don't have mute.
Okay. All right.
Did you get the audio to work on the presentation?
So I believe the audio is working on the presentation because a few of the computers just let me know before our meeting that it works for them. So there's actually nothing else I can do to ensure that the sound works on your computer.
My computer's turned all the way up and there's still no sound coming from it.
Right, I understand that, but given that other people's computers are in fact responding, it would mean that there's nothing else that I can do from my end. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. And again, as there are questions, feel free to shout them out. So this is a recording that I'm about to play you, and this right here is let's think of it as a pretend web page. Essentially, it is a web page that has been created without accessibility in mind. All right. So when somebody was creating this, they just neglected to put accessibility toward it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the screen reader read to you. And you'll notice that there's going to be a lot of missed opportunities here. And so I'd like for you guys to kind of note them in your mind, and I'll ask around when we're done to see if anyone was able to catch the errors that the screen reader missed because this was set up without accessibility in mind.
Creating accessible content. Checklist for Blackboard WCM content editors. While creating website content, it is crucial to consider accessibility. There are a few basic steps that should be followed in order to assure your content is accessible. Add built-in headings to document and do not skip numbers, e.g. jumping from heading 1 to heading 3. Use built-in list options, bullets or numbers. Add alt text for all links. Add alt text for all images. Define table headers and simplify tables as much as possible. Helpful information. Links. https://xerc.blackboard.com/domain/102. https://sw0000004.schoolwires.net/domain/1164. Files. Blackboard Accessibility PowerPoint Handout. Click here for resources Word document. Common accessibility errors. Type of error. Number of errors on page. Number of errors in section. Headings. 5. 12. Images without alternative text. 1. 3. Empty links. 2. 23. Inaccessible documents. 1. 4.
Okay, guys. So is anyone able to just chime in and let me know anything that they feel like wasn't the best? No one able to catch anything? Okay. So I'm going to fill in those blanks for you. So the first thing that the screen reader missed was, and I'm just going to go from the top to the bottom here. This image was just completely unannounced. So there was no acknowledgement that it was there. Again, the screen reader completely skipped over it. Second thing, we'll talk today about how each of these lines, so each of these headings of new pieces of information, okay, would need to actually be marked as a heading. We'll talk today about how the screen reader sees nothing except for content. It doesn't know that these headings are larger, bolder, in color, anything like that. And so in order for a heading to be announced, this would need to be marked with our heading tool. I'm not sure if any of you realized that the list was spoken a little bit weirdly. The screen reader said the word dash before each of these items. And as I said before, the screen reader, it's just going to try and read. It's not going to interpret. It's not going to translate for you. We know as people who can see that this list is a list and that the dashes are placeholders. Nobody else would be able to recognize that if they couldn't see it, because the screen reader actually says the word dash. So that's something to keep in mind. Down here, these links were not actually links. They're just a series of letters and numbers. In order for a link to be considered accessible, it actually needs to say its own name and state its purpose, and not just have a bunch of different letters and numbers. And oops, sorry about that. And then this table was not marked as a table, and because of that, the screen reader just read it as if it was a series of words just next to each other. Okay, so that's what was going on there. All right, so there's a lot wrong. This is the new version of this document, and I'm going to play it for you now, and then we'll take a minute to go over it. But before I do, were there any clarifying questions on this document and any confusion that needs to be cleared up?
I don't have it.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play the new one, or the accessible one, and then again, we'll go ahead and take some time to go through it.
Image. Blackboard logo. Begin heading level 1. Creating accessible content. End heading level 1. Begin heading level 2. Checklist for Blackboard WCM content editors. End heading level 2. While creating website content, it is crucial to consider accessibility. There are a few basic steps that should be followed in order to assure your content is accessible. 1. Built in headings to document and do not skip numbers, e.g. jumping from heading 1 to heading 3. 2. Use built-in list options, e.g. bullets or numbers. 3. Add all text for all links. 4. Add all text for all images. 5. Define table headers and simplify tables as much as possible. Begin heading level 2. Helpful information. End heading level 2. Begin heading level 3. Links. End heading level 3. Link. Blackboard Accessibility Help Site. Additional resources about accessibility from Blackboard. Opens in a new window. Link. Blackboard Training Site. Resources from the training. Opens in a new window. Begin heading level 3. Files. End heading level 3. Link. Blackboard Accessibility PowerPoint Handout. PDF version of Accessibility Training Presentation. Link. Word document with accessibility resources and links. Word document with links to additional resources. Common accessibility errors. Type of error. Number of errors on page. Number of errors in section. Type of error. Headings. Number of errors on page. Headings. 5. Number of errors in section. Headings. 12. Type of error. Images without alternative text. Number of errors on page. Images without alternative text. 1. Number of errors in section. Images without alternative text. 3. Type of error. Empty links. Number of errors on page. Empty links.
Okay, you guys. So that was the more accessible. That was the accessible version of this document, and I'd like to take a couple minutes to just reflect on it with you, and just plant some seeds, kind of about what will be the nitty-gritty that we'll be discussing today. So the first thing here, I'm just going to go again from the top to the bottom. So the first thing that the screen reader did is it interpreted this image. It said image Blackboard logo. And that's because Blackboard logo was the alternative text applied to this image when the content editor uploaded the image. Okay, it then said begin heading level 1, creating accessible content. And then it said end heading level 1. Okay, and then it said begin heading level 2, checklist for Blackboard WCM content editors, end heading level 2. Okay. Now, here's the deal on heading levels. You'll see that when you create headings in your site manager, that you're going to have multiple levels to choose from. You'll get level 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you use 4, you'll get 5, and if you use 5, you'll get 6, etc. Now, here's the deal with heading levels. Heading levels are not just where they are on the page. You'll notice that heading level 1 was the top heading, but that's because this is the title of this document, creating accessible content. It's the number 1 heading because it's the title of the document. It's the highest in status, okay? It then said, heading level 2, checklist for Blackboard WSM content editors. Level 2, okay, is checklist, not because it's the next heading down, but because it is a topic within a heading level 1. Okay, and that's why helpful information was also a heading level 2, because it also begins a topic that is within your heading level 1. Links and files were heading level 3s because they are direct subcategories within a heading level 2. All right. And if there were 2 different types of links, let's say there was headings within links, like accessibility links and web community manager links, both of those would be heading level 4s. Okay, so they're kind of like, I like to talk about those little Russian dolls where there's like one inside the other, inside the other, inside the other. They're sort of more concentric than they are kind of top down. Okay, so again, titles get level 1s. Any heading directly within a level 1 gets a level 2. Any heading within a level 2 gets a level 3, etc. All right. Now, again, that doesn't need to stick yet. We're going to get back to that later in the session. But are there any sort of initial questions about heading levels? Okay. Awesome.
Pretty basic.
Yeah, it is. One of my clients the other day compared it to outlining. So it's kind of like creating an outline. Okay, so then you'll notice that this list here, it was numerically numbered. And so the numbers were spoken instead of the dashes. And then when it got to links, okay, instead of those long, confusing URLs, the links said their name, which is what I like to say about creating links. They need to say their name. And so the screen reader actually said Blackboard Accessibility Help Site, and then it said link will open in a new window. So this is often new information to people, but your links and files, when they're uploaded, need to be uploaded with alternative text that will express a little bit more about the link and file. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the session. And then finally, the table was, it was spoken correctly because the screen reader knew that it was a table. So a lot happened in order to make this document accessible. You should be relieved to know that, I mean, I created this document in about 5 minutes, because after you know what you're doing, it's not a long process. It's a very quick process. And so we'll talk about how to create this accessible content from inaccessible content in the most expedient way possible. So before we do that, just a little bit of a understanding of the considerations that go into accessibility. So when you think about creating accessible content, there's 4 different areas of challenge that we're going to pay attention to. So the first one is cognitive challenge. If a learner or a stakeholder has ADHD or maybe dyslexia, or even just a low reading level or low comprehension rate, we actually think about them when we create content. We keep our content really simple and straightforward. And, there's no reason to create really high level reading on your website. Any stakeholder, a parent or something that comes across your site that maybe, didn't finish high school or whatever, they don't need to be a scholar in order to read your website. We need to be sensitive toward those that are either of a lower reading level or, again, are dealing with cognitive challenge. In the area of visual challenge, we think about people that have full or partial vision loss or color blindness. So we make sure that we have large enough font and sharp color contrast on our site. Physical challenge, again, those links. We need to consider people with mobility issues and how they can't necessarily use a mouse like people who do have full mobility issues. So we make sure to use long links. And then finally, in the area of hearing, we make sure that any video that we upload to the site does have video captioning or audio captioning installed or applied. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and get interactive. And when I say that, I mean we're going to take some content and we're going to really grow it from the ground up. We're going to create accessible content together. Okay. So I'd like for you guys to go back to either your blank page or your blank section, whatever it is that you created. And if you did create a blank section, you're going to go ahead and create a new page. So that way you guys that only have pages don't do anything. But those of you that don't, that you just have sections, go ahead and create a new page. And you can call it kind of whatever you'd like. I'm going to call mine accessibility practice page. And it's going to be a blank page, guys. All right, so we're going to grab blank page. And then we'll press save and continue. And just for my own understanding, I think I checked on this pretty thoroughly, but does everybody have the new page editing experience on, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. That's what I thought. All right, guys. So those of you that, well, not those of you, all of you, we're going to go ahead and add a content app in first. So we'll just take a content app and drag it over. And you can go ahead and open that up. Okay. So in order for us all to be on the same page, quite literally, now is when you're going to go to that other tab that I had you open. When you get there, you'll go to the training channel all the way down to the accessibility for WCM content creators section. And then when you get there, you'll go to where it says sample text for accessibility training on the left. Now, this might look familiar. It's a piece of the screen reader exercise, and this is what we'll be working on today, all right? So what I'd like for you to do is go ahead and copy. Don't paste, because pasting is going to be our first little lesson of the day. But go ahead and copy all the way from where it says creating accessible content down to where it says click here for resources Word document. Okay. And so I'm just going to do my key shortcuts, the Control C. Okay. And then we're going to go back to our content app. Now, don't paste, please, okay, because that's going to be our first lesson. But what I'm going to do now is just open it up to anyone else, anyone who might need more time for this before I start with the actual formal hands-on lesson. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started then. So the first lesson, guys, is using your pasting tool. All right. Now, when you add in content, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. I don't want you to do that. I'm going to go ahead and do it, though. What I've just done is I've pasted in a whole bunch of inaccessible content, and that defeats the purpose of this workshop entirely. So I'm going to undo that. When you want to paste, please use the Paste as Plain Text button, which is the little picture of the clipboard with the T in front of it. Now, when you press that, you'll notice that not a lot happens. It's a little bit anticlimactic. It doesn't actually do the paste for you. It sets up your paste going forward. So after I've pressed this, then I can paste. And you'll notice that now it comes out as plain text. And that's really the whole point of this exercise, is that you need to paste as plain text, again, so you're not bringing over any inaccessible content. All right? Okay, so now we'll get started. And by the way, I'll be sending you guys this big PowerPoint here with all the instructions as well. So if you wanted to repeat this with your other teachers or anything like that, you're more than welcome to. All right, so headings. So that's the first thing we're going to talk about is headings and creating accessible headings. So before we talk about the how, we'll just go ahead and talk about the why. Headings are a really big, important part of learning, especially learning when you're reading and when you're trying to glean meaning and value from a written composition. Headings allow us to break up content in long documents and allow us to actually connect information to topics and categorize and make connections. That's a really important part of the learning experience. Headings introduce new topics so that our brain can adjust and be aware that we're, again, switching topics. And again, important part of the learning experience and making connections. And that's why people of all disabilities and abilities need headings. That's one reason. But on a little bit more of a practical level, I guess, for this workshop, headings allow the screen reader to actually jump around within an article. So if I wasn't able to see a document, but I was trying to learn it from it, trying to read it, and let's say I was reading a big paper on biology, all right? And I knew about human biology. I had that part down, but I wanted to go back and reread the part about plant biology. The screen reader can do that for me if a heading is marked as a heading. I can use my keys. I can go back up to the heading that says plant biology, and I can have the screen reader read to me from only plant biology and nothing else, all right? So it's an important piece for people that are using screen readers too. But a practical level for everyone is that headings will actually add to the sitemap of the website. So literally giving you like a table of contents. So that's kind of a nice built-in piece. Now, as far as how to, all right, we're going to go ahead and go back to our content tab in a moment. But the main rules are using a logical and consistent heading structure, all right? You have to use your built-in heading structure. You cannot use bold, italic, underline, colored, or font, larger font, or whatever, to convey meaning. Screen readers don't see it. They don't get it. They don't know if something is beige or tan or yellow or purple. They don't know. They also don't know if it's big, small, italicized. So again, you must use that heading structure. When I say logical and consistent, though, I mean literally that. In a moment, I'll show you that there's different types of headings. There's heading 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 will become available as you need it. 6 will become available as you need it. The term logical and consistent just comes from counting. You start with 1, you then go to 2, then 3, then 4. It is an OCR infringement for you to go out of order, right? You can't just use 1, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 2. You must go in order, okay? So I'm back at my content app. I'm going to make this a little larger for you, okay? And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make a bit of a mistake, all right? So if you're the eater beaver type that's going to go along with me, you should know that I'm about to make a mistake on purpose. So my heading, my first heading, and I'm going to go back to the example text here so we can reference it. So my top level heading is creating accessible content. That's going to be my heading level 1. So I'm going to see that here on my content app. I'm going to highlight it. And then I'm going to go to my heading tool. And my heading tool is the T with the up and down arrow. When I press next to it on that drop down arrow, I'm going to see that I have 4 different headings presented to me. I have H1, H2, H3, H4. Now, you'll also see that there are words next to that. But I often ignore those, and I like to focus on the numbers. Because again, when you're going for logic and consistency, it's easier to rely on numbers than words, especially since these words are so general and subjective. I just feel better about guiding you in a certain way. So again, my heading level 1 is creating accessible content. So I'm going to highlight it and press level 1. And as promised, I have made a mistake. All of this is now considered a heading level 1, and that is not what I want. So I'm going to undo it by just highlighting it again and pressing level 1. Now, the reason that happened is because there needs to be a fully blank line of code in between headings and all other content. And so simply I'm going to press return and then go back and do it again. Okay. And you'll see, I want you to notice that when you do that and you're kind of hovering in a heading, the little bar at the very bottom of your content app will reflect the type of heading that you have. So this says H1, okay? Whereas if I go to any other plain text, it'll just say P. All right. So now I'm going to do my other heading. So checklist for Blackboard WCM content editors, make a return, and press level 2. But I want you to just notice one more thing that happens, or that can happen, and then I'm going to let you loose on headings. So I'm going down to helpful information, which is my next heading, level 2. And I'm going to press level 2. And you'll notice that the thing happens again, all right? Even though there was a space. When that happens, it looks like a blank line, but it's not. You're going to want to actually go to the next piece of information there and do a delete and then another return. And that's called a hard return. And so you're basically just killing any space in between there. And then you can go ahead and do your paste. So I'm going to go ahead and just give you just a little bit of a hint next to each of these so you guys can create your own. You don't need to do what I'm doing here. So in fact, you shouldn't. I'm giving you the visual cue. Go ahead and let me know if you run into problems, but go ahead and try this on your own now. I'm going to just give you another couple seconds here, but anyone who has a question, please chime in.
So you have two H3s.
Yes. Yes. Links and files would both be considered H3s as they are direct topics within an H2.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Does that make sense, or should I kind of riff on that a little bit more?
Can you go on it a little bit more?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what you've got here, okay, is you have this document, and you can see that there are several headings for new topics, right? So you have the title of the document is creating accessible content. And then you have 3 different categories within creating accessible content. So you have the first category, or topic, I should say. The first topic is this checklist. The second topic is some helpful information for you. And the third topic is common accessibility errors, okay? And then there's information under each one of these topics, of course, that have to do with the headings. So where we have levels, and then I'll get to links and files in a moment, but creating accessible content is considered your heading level 1 because it is the title of the document. It's kind of the highest status of heading on the page. So you can kind of think of these almost as like first class, second class, third class, right? You have your first class heading is the title of the document because it's the queen heading, it's the fancy heading. Then you have your 3 direct subcategories or 3 secondary topics under the heading. So you have your checklist, helpful information, and common accessibility errors. And each of these are topics that are of equal status, right? So again, you go to first class, second class, third class. You have your second class headings right here, and they're all of equal importance. And so they get heading level 2s because they're within a heading level 1. And then you have links and files. And links and files are direct topics within a level 2. So they are considered level 3s. They're third class, okay? A fourth class heading would be within a third class heading, and a fifth class heading would be within a fourth class heading, all right? So again, they're kind of that, they can kind of go by status of topic and not by just where they are on the page. Did that give you a little more clarity?
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad. And I can always send you guys a little more information on that just in case there's any more, or just a little bit leftover confusion. So did everybody have an okay time doing those headings? That I would assume that anybody would let me know if they were stuck. Awesome. Okay, great.
Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. So a couple things, guys. So what we're going to do in a minute is we're going to take a look at your headings. And what you might notice, this happens for, just to give you really fair warning, like 3/4 of the clients that I've worked with on this training, this has been an issue for them. You're going to see that some of your headings might be inappropriately sized. So you might see in a moment that your heading level 1 is smaller than your heading level 2. And your level 2 might be smaller than your level 3. And that is fine for people that can't see, okay? But not necessarily fine for people that can see, because that can be kind of confusing for people that are trying to read this document. And so there's a couple things that you can do if that happens. The reason I'm telling you that now is because, again, you can see that the little bar at the bottom will say the type of heading you have. So H1, for example. If I wanted to make this larger, bolder, whatever, I can, as long as it's still a heading level 1. All right, so I can make this bigger. I want you to watch what happens to that bar at the bottom. So I'm going to make it bold, and it will still say H1. It will now also just say strong, which is the code for bold. Italicized is EM, underlined is span, right? So as long as that code continues to say H1, you're good to go. Okay, but the other thing is Are you guys in the habit at all of using your app names?
I always change mine so that they don't all say content in the app manager.
Yep. Okay, great. So when you, that's a really good practice anyway, because you're right, it can be an absolute nightmare if they all say content. But if you turn on your app names in app options, your app name will actually be considered an accessible heading level 1. So I could get rid of this and make it my app name. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you both, and then we can discuss app names and what they look like. So right now, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to put it to the side, and I'm just going to save this content. You guys are welcome to do the same, and we'll take a look at what it looks like. I'm saving. I'm previewing. Yeah, and as we can see, okay, your heading level 1 is actually smaller than your heading level 2. And this problem can be solved 3 ways. The first way is you can actually just go in, make it bolder, larger, more underlined, etc. The second is you can turn on your app name. But the third way is actually, Mike, you can submit a support case, and support will fix this for you kind of as soon as possible. So if you decide that you want your app name or your H1s to look like H1s, that's kind of a thing that we can take care of for you.
So also,
yeah,
support and ask them just to make my H1s look like H1s.
100%. Yep.
Okay, I'll do that now.
Yeah, you can totally do that now. You should be aware that there's probably going to be another opportunity for you to email them when we get to Ally, because there could be some template issues that you're dealing with. So you can start I would suggest starting a little bit of a list, and that way you can send them kind of a big email when we're done.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, good call. But so this is what it looks like without app name, and I just want to give you the understanding of what it would look like with your app name on, which would again serve the same purpose as your H1. So for those of you that are not aware of what I'm talking about, I'm going to make that clearer to you now. So in each app, you'll have a place that says app options. And in the content app, it's at the very top right. If I press on that, you're going to see a place that says app name. Now, you should be naming your apps regardless, because as Mike just pointed out, if you don't name your apps, they're all going to be named something very generic. So I'm going to name mine Creating Accessible Content, which is going to be the title of my app. And then there's a little box that says show the app name on my page. And if I press that, okay, and I press save, I'm then going to get like a title. And so I can delete my H1, make sure that my H2 is still in H2. And let's take a look at what this looks like. Okay, so that gives it a little bit more of a uniform look. And yeah, again, so this would just take the place of my heading level 1. Any questions, guys? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to get back into my app now. All right, so headings are in the book. So the next piece of discussion that we're going to have is about lists. Now, as we talked about before, oftentimes what people will do is they'll put in something like dashes next to each item or asterisks or something like that. None of those work. That's not okay. Those are actual pieces of text. So the screen reader will try and read it. I often call the screen reader like a emergent reader, like a kindergartner or a first grader. If it's there, the screen reader will try to sound it out. Okay, and so you want to set it up for success. So I'm going to stick my cursor next to my first listable item. So I've just stuck it next to add. And then your list tools are the bullets and the numbers. And all I'm doing there is just clicking next to the drop-down menu. Now, whichever one you use is up to you. I'm going to do the list here as a as a numeric list because it's a list of steps. And so I'll just press default. And you'll see that the 1 is going to add to the first listable item. And then the way that I get it all to line up underneath is by using my down arrow and then pressing enter, down arrow, enter, down arrow, enter, down arrow, enter. Okay. And then down here with these links, you'll see that when there is that blank line of code that I built in before, and I put my cursor next to my first listable item, and I use my bullets, it's going to kind of go above. And so all I'll do is I'll just have I'll press delete once to have them join up. Oops. And then just go through the same protocols. Okay, so you guys can let me know when you're done or if you run into any problems. And if you want to, you can preview it if you're curious to know what it looks like. I'll do the same. Okay, looking good. Okay, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. And again, if there's any questions or comments, just go ahead and yell at me a little. Okay, so here's the deal on links. Links need to be clickable, descriptive text. And I want you to really think about that for a minute because that sounds confusing, clickable, descriptive text. But really, it just means text that describes what the website is and is clickable, meaning you click on the description and it takes you to the website. The URL thing is no longer allowed, all right? It's just not feasible to ask somebody who can't see to remember a URL and then be able to implement it into a search bar to then find a new website. It's not feasible. It's completely inaccessible and would actually get you an OCR complaint. And so that's also good motivation. But they also cannot say click here. They need to describe themselves. They need to be clickable and descriptive, all right? They also need to have alternative text that will say where the link is opening, if it's opening in a new window or the same window, all right? But we'll get to that second. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually create our clickable descriptive text. So under links, the first one that says Blackboard Accessibility Help Site, I want you to go ahead and copy the link, the URL next to it, because that's what we'll use to link this text. And then you can delete it. And then we're going to highlight, and I'm sure you're very used to using your different tools up here, the link, insert link button, insert image, and insert file. These are tools that you guys are familiar with?
Yes.
Okay.
I am.
Okay, cool. So just in case any of you aren't, I'll take it a little bit slowly, but if I highlight my clickable descriptive text, which by the way is fine, this would be considered totally accessible. Blackboard Accessibility Help Site does describe its name, so we'll kind of keep it that way. But I'm going to go up to my link. I call it the link wizard. It's the little chain link up here. And I will go to the web address field and simply go ahead and dump in that URL. And I'll note that it opens in a new window. Okay, so then you just press insert link. Now we have to now deal with that alternative text piece, all right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my link, all right, or I'm going to hover on my link, and then I'm going to right click. And if you're on a Mac, you'll do the double finger click. but I'm going to right click and I'll get the little box that says link and image. So I'm going to go to where it says link. Now,
I don't understand why they don't just offer the title right there when you're inserting the link.
I know.
And make it a requirement.
I know. You're actually the like the 9th client to tell me that this month. And I think that this is something that they're aware of, and this is something that they kind of one of their goals to get to. For now it's a 2-part process, which is yeah, it's an inconvenience for sure. I hear that. But one of the ways you can get around that, Mike, is actually just by doing this from the very beginning. Like I could have just gone here and just dumped in my URL from the beginning. But, you know, just in case somebody wanted to link to a different type of website, that's why I use the link wizard. But if you're going into an external website, you can just do it this way. And what we're talking about with title, guys, is title is the word for alternative text within a link. I know that's also an inconvenient piece. There's a few different things that they'll call alternative text throughout the website. And in sheer transparency, that is because we are also kind of scrambling to make sure that we are able to serve our clients accessible content. And so these things are kind of the lowest priority, things like changing the names to alternative text. So for now, just remember it's called title. And all it needs to say is, so basically help site or something about the site will open in a new window.
It shouldn't say the same name as the link.
It's absolutely fine. Just needs to have some sort of context. Okay. And so from there, I would then press OK. Now, as far as new window, same window, I do have a disclaimer here. This alternative text only needs to be applied if your link is opening in a new window. If it's opening in the same window, it does not require alternative text. The reason I say that last is because oftentimes people will do this regardless, okay, just because of their own best practices. However, again, just to be very clear, alternative text within links is only required if this opens in in a new window.
For hyperlink.
Yeah, for a link, exactly. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do another one of those just to make you super aware of the protocols or of the procedures. And I'm getting this link actually from the same place that you guys got your sample text. And I'll just do that the right click way. So I'm coming here, right clicking, pasting in my URL and simply writing in training or trainer's website will open in a new window, and then making sure that my target matches up. Okay. And a way to just ensure this, that you've done it correctly, is by saving your work. And when you preview, you'll notice that if you hover over your links, the alternative text will display. Okay. So as far as files go, they are extremely similar. The only difference being that alternative text for files need to convey the type of file that that you're working with. So you guys are welcome to take a breather if you want, or you can join me. I don't actually have a document to give you, but if you want to practice this, you can upload one of your own. I'm going to go ahead and do, again, the same procedure. I'm going to highlight Blackboard Accessibility PowerPoint handout, go up to my file wizard. I'm going to add in a file. And this is just I'm going to call it a rubbish file. It just says sample document on it. And then I would simply come here, do that right click thing, and write in file will open as a Word document. And actually, sorry about that. That was a typo. You do not need to capitalize Word as a Word document or whatever it is. I mean, obviously, this should be a PowerPoint. I did not just upload a PowerPoint. But if I did, I would write as a PowerPoint presentation. And then a little bit of example here. I don't need to write click here for. I could just simply write resources Word document. Okay. Again, conveying what this document is, simply applying the alternative text. Okay. And then I would move forward. Any questions? Awesome. All right. So the next lesson is on images, guys. All right. So here's the deal with alternative text and images. As we mentioned earlier, an image is basically considered null and void unless it has alternative text. The good news is that 9 out of 10 of your apps will require it. And so you can't really pass go without using it anyway. But also, alternative text will index your images for searching, all right, meaning that it will add to the metadata of your website. As far as how to use alt text, all right, clear, concise, and descriptive is really what you're going for. You're not going over the top, all right? You don't need to be too descriptive, but you do need to thoroughly describe the image, all right? And so there's a couple of guidelines that go along with that. First of all, don't use the same text for every picture. It negates, right, the meaning really of or the alternative text of the images if you use the same one for every image. 2, please don't use unrelated images. It's very confusing when a screen reader is reading text and then goes to describe an unrelated image to the text. If you have an image that has words in it, like a comic strip or something like that, you do need to convey those words in text. Okay, so that would need to be any of the words within the picture would need to be attached to the alternative text. And if there's more words than you can fit in the alternative text field, you need to add a file. So I have an example. So this is just an organizational chart. And the alternative text field, I think, is 180 characters, and I wouldn't be able to fit all of this in. And so I do have a link here of a attachment that describes the document. Okay, and this will be on the training site for you to use as an example.
I have a question.
Yes.
When we got our Jumpstart training for Ally, there was a statement made that we could have Ally create a accessible version of a document if it was not accessible at the time. I feel like all that text, I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm just saying it's a lot to do just to be able to read an organizational chart. And I'm wondering if Ally will be creating that for us if we ask it to after the fact.
So Mike, I'm not sure, what sales conveyed to you, but that is considered the third phase of Ally, and that piece of Ally is not going to be available until the end of the year. Okay, but
so they did. So
sorry.
The real thing is made up technology, but it's not available yet. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's considered phase 3, and we're currently in phase 1. Phase 3 is slated to be out by November.
Okay.
All right, so, but we'll talk about documents in a minute, and then of course we'll break into Ally as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. So this is an example of alternative text, and you can see that one here is completely oversimplified. It says cat. That is a correct assessment of the family that this animal is in, but would absolutely conjure up an incorrect image within somebody who heard the word cat. They would probably envision a house cat. And so the term male lion has been applied here for this animal, which makes complete and total sense, as this is a lion with a mane. So if this lion was doing something, biting, fighting, running, you could go ahead and apply that verb. Since this male lion is basically doing nothing, you certainly could put sitting, but you really don't need to. All right, so simple is fine, oversimplifying is not, but again, clear, concise, and descriptive. So we're gonna go ahead and put an image in now, and you can decide where you want your image. And I'm gonna put mine kind of under helpful information, just on the left-hand side. And we're actually gonna use clip art. So if you go to your image wizard, which is the little picture of the mountain and the sun, and you go all the way down to where it says clip art, I'm just gonna, you wanna choose a related image. So I'm gonna press computer to get a related image. And you guys can choose which one you'd like. Really, this is an exercise in creating alternative text. And so I'm gonna choose the picture of the lady with the pantsuit. And I'll press continue. And my alternative text is going to be very straightforward. It's just going to be woman working at a laptop. I'll change around my dimensions. Okay. And as long as you have appropriate alternative text, go ahead and press insert image. Okay, so I'm going to save, and we'll just go ahead and preview. This is actually where I have you kind of relax and sit back, the interactive portion for you guys. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry about that. I do have another app to show you. Never mind, but it's almost over. So I'm going to go ahead and preview. And there's certain ways you can check for accessibility on your own, hovering over your image, checking for that alt text, hovering over your links, checking for your alt text. Making sure that all listable items are bulleted. Okay. So I do have another app to show you. It's a very quick demo, and so you're welcome to play along with me, or you can just watch, but it's just about alternative text in another app. And I want to show you site shortcuts, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring it over. And again, you're welcome to play along with me. It's going to be a really quick demo. So I'm going to open up the shortcuts. Okay. And I just wanted to show you that when you add a new link, there's going to be an area that says tooltip. And that's really what I wanted to point out for you, is I'm going to go ahead and put in my actual link, the Blackboard Accessibility Help site. So tooltip is the area for my alternative text. And this would actually also be my alternative text if I decided to create a link image. So if I wanted my link to be a picture, tooltip would serve as my alternative text. I would just write in the same thing. Help site will open in a new window. And then make sure that your target matches that.
I would use tooltip as saying something like, click here for, instructions, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and all you want to make sure that you've done there is just make sure that where it will open. But yeah, tooltip is yeah, it's a tip for using this tool.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that's just a really quick understanding of how to use the tooltip feature. Yeah. All right. So now is actually when I'm, again, as promised, I'm going to have you guys sit back for a couple minutes as I'm going to kind of take it from here. But before I move away from your page, questions, comments, concerns, requests for repeating, anything like that? Okay, awesome. All right, guys, let's talk about tables. So I'm not sure how used to you guys, or how much you guys use your tables. But it is an app, and it looks like this. All right, and this is just an example of a table that I have on my page. I'd like to show you what goes into this in order to make it a compliant table, because it is just admittedly a little bit more labor intensive than the rest of the stuff we've been talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here and show you what's going on behind the scenes. Okay, so when you first use a table app, the first thing it will do is ask you your table dimensions, blank by blank, and then you'll go ahead and it'll populate a blank table, and you'll go in and edit your table. Now, the next things you'll need to do, okay, first of all, header row and header column. Okay, if your table is driven only by the rows, you would press header row. If there were two axes, if you will, you would also press header column. Okay. If it was only going from the columns, you would only press column, right? You would decide which credentials your table is using and then check that off. But wait, that's not all. So now you would need to go to set table options. The caption is going to be basically what is being analyzed. It's just a sentence. So this table displays common accessibility errors as seen within sections and pages. And then the summary is actually, it's a backup on a backup. It's basically, if your screen reader doesn't know how to read a table, this is your backup, and it is alternative text for the table. All right. And so it really goes into detail. It says the common accessibility errors on this table are headings, images without alternative text, empty links, and inaccessible documents. In the area of headings, there are 5 errors on the page and 12 within the section. In the area of images, there's 1 error on the page and 3 within the section, etc., etc. Right? So it's a meaty job. I like to tell my clients that if you want to use a table, you should really want to use a table. So going forward, those are the things that you would need to do in order to assure compliance. Documents. So here's the deal on documents. Now, as Mike did point out, Ally will have this awesome tool available. It is not available yet. And so until it is, you'll need to ensure your own accessibility within documents. Now, here's the deal. Ally was actually originally created for Blackboard Learn, which is an e-teaching platform. And because of that, it's really good at checking your documents for accessibility. All right, so a lot of your errors are going to have to do with your attachments. Now, here's the deal with creating accessible documents. Everything that we've done today mirrors what you would do in Microsoft Word. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up a Word document. And we'll start with an example of just a completely beautiful but very inaccessible document. And it's giving me a little bit of attitude right now, so just one moment. Oh, all right. So this is gorgeous. This is a kindergarten newsletter from a district I worked with several months ago. Beautiful and just so very uncompliant. All right. So what this person would need to do, okay, is you can see that this is an image that says mission news. That's not allowed. I would actually need to delete that. And then I want you to note how easy it is to create a heading. I would write in mission news. I would highlight it the same way that I would in my content app. And then there's going to be this area up here, heading 2, heading 9, whatever. If I press more, I can just simply press heading 1. And it's now a heading. Okay. I can then go through and I can change it back to whatever font they were using, and it's still a heading 1. All right. If I wanted to add alternative text to this image, I would simply right click on the image, and there's going to be a little thing that says add alt text. Okay. So again, it's a very easy to use. It's just that awareness going forward. This is what you would need to do. Okay. So again, anything that you need, Microsoft Word has your back. All right. Heading tool, very easy. Alternative text tool, very easy. When you add a table, it's going to guide you through that as well. So it's, again, just that awareness piece going forward, that workflow piece. Oh, also on Microsoft Word, I don't know why I didn't mention this earlier, but there is a little check accessibility option. So we'll see if this guy's going to open for me again, and I'll show you where it is. But again, it's a very cool tool. So here, if I go to review, I can literally press check accessibility. And this can't be checked for whatever reason, but probably because it wasn't created in Microsoft Word. Okay. So that's attachments. But as far as PDFs go, when you start with an accessible Word document, you have an accessible PDF. So we like to say that PDFs are kind of best practices because they're universally downloadable. But we also like to recommend that you start first with an accessible Microsoft Word document or Google Doc. As far as PowerPoints go, if you have any presentations posted, they also need to go with that same rules, right? So I could right click on this and add my alt text. Okay. If I go to format picture, there's going to be my alt text button. So again, just showing you that they're all here. The other thing with PowerPoint presentations, though, is that every slide must have a title. Must. Okay. So there's going to be your title box on every slide. Every single one of those needs to have a title. That would be considered your heading level 1 for the page. And if there's 2 slides with the same title, you're going to want to have something like this, 1 of 2 or 2 of 2. Any questions on attachments before I go on to color contrast? Okay. All right, guys. So I have some observations that I've taken from your homepage, and it's actually about color contrast. Here's the deal on color contrast. It has to be extremely sharp contrast in order for all stakeholders to be able to see it. All right. Now, Ally is going to tell you if you have color contrast issues. It's not going to tell you where they are. All right. And so for now, you're going to have to do a little bit of layering. I happen to have an alternative or a color contrast checker on my browser. It is a Google Chrome extension. And I do actually have a feeling about your channel bar. So I'm going to go ahead and check it for accessibility now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my color dropper and I'm going to pick that orange color. Pulling very random colors from the page, but I'll see if this is good elsewhere. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm not used to my WebAIM accessibility checker not working. Oops. Oops, that's not correct. Sorry, guys. We'll go to a different page and see if it'll pick up on me. I wonder if it's because I'm signed in. Very, very strange. Darn. All right. Well, let me take that blue for now, just to show you how it works, and I'll check on it again when you guys are on break to make sure I have your actual results. But here on this website, I'm going to simply dump in that color, so background color, and then I'm going to go ahead and get that white up. And you'll notice that this would be a fail, right? So if my channel bar was this blue, it's going to be a fail by the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines grade AA and grade AAA in both normal text and large text, all right? And so this is something you will want, at least one of you from each campus or something, will want to download until Ally is in that phase, okay, where it will fix it for you, all right? And so again, you're going for sharp contrast. Now here on this page, right, I have this kind of added bonus of being able to use my slider bars to see different variations of this shade. Okay, so all videos on your pages need to be captioned. And so there's a few ways that we think about kind of doing that. The first thing is, if it's an instructional video, it's very likely that somebody else already has a captioned video of it. And so, I mean, you know, if you look soon into the future, you're not going to be able to find videos without at least optional captions, because again, accessibility is an international standard. So you can try and find the ones that are already captioned. But YouTube does have an automatic captioning tool that you're welcome to turn on if you'd like. You're going to want to make sure that you do go through that after you're done using it to make sure that YouTube has interpreted everything correctly. Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to give you guys a break, but I'd like to just show you first where you can get your resources. So I'm going to be sending Mike an email later today when we're done with both of our sessions, and he can send it to you guys, and it will have a bunch of stuff on it. It will have my PowerPoint, which you're welcome to use, but it will also have links to some of these resources, and they're fabulous. They're really good for you to use, you know, if you get stuck along the way. So there's an article on formatting accessible documents. There's a webinar you can listen to about accessibility. There's your color contrast analyzer link. There's a reading analysis level link, or reading level analysis, my apologies. Just all these different things, again, that you're more than welcome to use on your journey. There's that sample text for the organizational. There's a checklist for you. There's the alternative text cheat sheet for different names of alternative text within the Web Community Manager. So again, go ahead and make use of that, you know, whenever. And it'll also have, the email will also have my information. So you can always call me or text me or email me if you get stuck. But for now, we're actually going to go ahead and I mean, I'm very open for questions and comments, but we'll go ahead and give you guys a little break before we start with Ally. And what I'll just remind you at this time is that you can go ahead and delete your training section / page, unless you'd like to keep it. So before I give you guys a break, are there any questions, comments, anything you'd like me to repeat before I let you on your break? All right. All right, everyone, I'm ready whenever you guys are.
We're here.
Awesome.
I'm going to lower my input volume a little bit. It's pretty high.
Here, let's see. Is this any more agreeable? Is this better at all?
I mean, yeah, it sounds good, but I'm in the other office, and I'm telling you, if you even breathe heavy, you can
Yikes.
hear it over the phone.
Okay. I've taken off my headphones and my headset now, so maybe it's a little bit easier to hear and not as breathy.
Well, no, it's not you. It's like every little crinkle or someone walk by, or if you move in your chair, I could hear it all.
Yeah.
Not in this room, but off on the phone. I'm sure other people are hearing it all. But your headset was working fine.
Oh, okay, great. Awesome. So I'll actually put that back on. All right, guys. So Ally is going to work differently than your accessibility training. Basically, what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be taking a look inside your Ally tool. And I'm just going to be talking to you all about Ally and showing you your Ally tool at the site level. And it's not an interactive session unless you are a site administrator and you want to follow along with me. But what I will say is that the only place your widget currently is on the site workspace. Later today, your subsites will get Ally, but for the training, you're only going to be on this site. So I'll take you through it. I'm gonna answer all your questions, or at least to the extent that I can, and I'll get you loaded up with some good resources for that too. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're still recording, so here we go. All right. So the objective of this piece of the session, which by the way is dramatically shorter than our last session, is we're going to start off by, I'm just going to remind you kind of what the whole point is. I'm going to remind you about the OCR and give you a little more information about the standards on which Ally is based. Then we're going to get into the current and future features. So as you guys overheard my conversation with Mike in the last session, Ally has 3 distinct phases that have been outlined, phase 1, 2, and 3. We are in phase 1. I'm going to tell you about phase 2, and I'm going to tell you about phase 3, and when you can expect those. Then we'll get into the Ally tool itself. We'll kind of rip it open, and we'll start discussing how to use it. All right? All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So again, accessibility boils down to equal access, something that we all believe in. And these standards that we are adhering to are, again, implemented by the U.S. Office of Civil Rights. They are international standards, all right? Now, what I told you guys before is that the U.S. Office of Civil Rights is currently on their 2nd iteration of web accessibility guidelines, likely working on the 3rd, and, we'll just it'll continue to evolve as the internet evolves. Again, we're measuring your website, they're measuring your website for perceivability, operability, understandability, and robustness, if you will, which basically is just a general, or basically just boils down to, can your website be read and operated by all people, no matter ability or disability. We went over these in your last session. Over the last couple of hours. But this is what it specifically means. So improper use of headers, empty links or links without that alternative text, color contrast issues, incorrect use of tables, missing alternative text and images, inaccessible documents, videos without captions, and then that readability level of content. Okay, so your Ally tool is again located on that site workspace, and it is integrated in your Web Community Manager, and basically uses a full structural and visual analysis to check your website, okay? We're going to take a look into it in a moment, but what I wanted to tell you guys, or in case you're not aware, I mean, I'm sure Mike is aware, but for the rest of you, you guys are considered early adopters. So really what that means is that you're getting in on the ground floor. All right. As I've already mentioned, Ally has 3 distinct phases. We're only in phase 1, which again means that you guys are kind of taking a chance with us. You're kind of coming along for the ride with us. And that's why we call you early adopters. Now, as new phases become available, all right, Mike will get an email. He will then email the rest of you and let you know that those changes have been implemented and that you can rely on those changes whenever you sign into the website next. And so the first change will be later today, when all subsites will get this tool on their site. What I'm about to tell you as well is that we're not only in phase 1, we're in phase 1A. So again, very beginning of this process. So we appreciate you coming along for the ride with us. And I'll tell you this a few more times today, but we have a very dedicated support team for our early adopters. They are 100% aware, again, that the tool is not in its most robust phase yet. And so we are here to support you when you run into challenges. So what is it? So again, Ally is built into your Web Community Manager. It does use machine learning to create a full structural and visual analysis of your website, and then measures your website and each piece of the website against the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0. There are 3 passing grades for those WCAG. So there's an A rating, which is kind of the lowest level pass, a AA rating, and then a AAA rating. We measure your success against the AA rating. We're not going to go for an A rating. That's not a high enough pass for us. But that AAA rating, it's a little bit beyond what Ally can offer right now. AAA rating is, again, the most robust pass, the highest pass possible. In order to ensure a AAA accessibility score, realistically, you would need to have someone on staff basically triple checking every single piece of content that goes on to the website. 99% of school districts cannot be in that position. And so that's not something that we're going to challenge you to do. AA is a very acceptable score, something that you can feel very proud of. And so that's what we'll go for. After that, the kind of measurement is taken, if you will, and they're measured against each other, then Ally will start kind of basically spitting out a report of all of the different accessibility errors that you have on your site, and then you'll be able to go and fix those. All right, so that's phase 1, okay, is understanding what your errors are, okay? Phase 2, which is going to come out, I'll kind of show you this. Nope, never mind, sorry about that. Phase 2, which is supposed to come out, again, kind of in the near future, I don't have an exact date for you, will give you recommendations. So, for example, it will say, HTML error, you have bad heading structure, inconsistent heading structure. Then Ally will recommend that you, go from heading 1 to heading 2, right? So it'll give you recommendations based on your content. Phase 3 is kind of what everyone's really most excited about, and that is the alternative format. So it will basically say to you, your document is inaccessible. Here is a new version that you can download. Okay, so obviously everyone's very excited for that phase. We are not at that phase yet. We are in phase 1A, meaning right now you have this, okay? Everything that I just described to you. You have a tool. It's going to be on your subsite workspaces, okay? It's going to show you where your errors are. The next phase, which is set to come out, they say before the end of March, so soon, although again, I can't sign my name to that, is continuous evaluation. At this point, when you want Ally to run again, you need to email support and tell them that, all right? Again, in the next, they're saying few weeks at most, it will do this on its own. It will not go real time, but it will do every 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, you'll get a scan and it will come up with your new score, okay? At this time, if you want that done, you will need to email support, tell them that, and they will run it for you, okay? So again, we're in the very beginning here. Before June of this year, it is said that this will be on all editors' workspaces, meaning not only site and subsite, but also channel workspaces and section workspaces. Okay, so that's all set to happen pre-summer. Post-summer, you'll start to see communications about phase 2. And phase 3, we're talking winter. Okay, so again, just a reiteration of what I just said. Right now, it's going to be in the site and sub-site workspaces. Your institutional report is created at the time of integration. And again, when you request an institutional report regeneration. And then right now, we also have single-click access, which means that you can click on the error and it will take you to the error. Any questions so far? Alrighty. Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to go ahead and open up Ally and show you kind of what we're working with. But before I do that, I do want to discuss the scoring process that comes along with Ally. So you'll see in a minute that we'll see your Ally widget on the site workspace, and it's going to have an overall accessibility score. It's then going to index your issues. It's going to tell you how many severe, major, and minor issues you have. So let's discuss that. So when Ally first runs, it takes a scan of every single piece of content on the website, every document, every app, every picture, every URL, everything. And every single thing gets a score, okay? And the score comes from how accessible an item is, how many stakeholders it can affect, and how severely it affects them. So when I say how severely, I mean something like if something actually affects a person's like a health, okay, for example, it's going to be considered a very severe issue. It's going to get a 0% accessibility score, all right? When I say affects somebody's health, I actually mean something like a GIF. GIFs, you'll see, are the big moving flashy pictures. If they're too flashy, they can actually offset a seizure in somebody with epilepsy. And so that's automatically going to be a severe issue, okay? But other severe issues that you'll see are things like scanned documents. Scanned documents are not allowed. They are basically giant pictures without alternative text. All right, but anyway, that's a little bit off the point. So each piece of content is going to receive an accessibility score, okay? And they're going to be indexed into these 3 categories. So if a piece of content gets between a 0 and 33% accessibility score, that means that it is a severe issue that needs immediate attention. If an item is between 33 and 66% accessible, that's considered a major issue that needs attention. And then if a piece of content is between 66 and 100% accessible, that means it's a minor to a non-issue, which means it's fine, you're doing well. A couple other things should be needed, but you'll be fine, all right? Now, each of those percentages are then added and averaged together to create your overall accessibility score. So in a minute, when you see your percentage, it doesn't mean that 75% of your site is accessible. It means that 75% is the average of every single piece of content on the website. Does that make sense?
It does. I wish I could get all my PDFs off the website.
I know it. And so what they will do, though, is they will give you your PDFs that you can then download and then re-upload. So we'll go through it now. But that's kind of the rundown on scoring. Okay, so let's get in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go right over to, I'm actually going to close all this stuff. And I'm going to sign in again. And your widget has, oh, that's because I'm on a channel workspace. My apologies. Your widget is, again, kind of here on the site workspace, okay? And you can see that you have an overall accessibility score, as I already said, of 75%. You have 238 severe issues, 4741 major, 4935 minor, okay? And so we're going to go ahead and break it open. We'll see, first of all, there's probably going to be some stuff that's a little bit outdated that we can go ahead and take down. Some of these things are going to be template issues that we at support can take care of. There's a whole bunch of stuff to learn. So in order to get in there and crack it open, we're going to press the overview button, which, by the way, is the only button that you can press on the entire widget. So makes it easy. Okay. And so now we'll start kind of taking a look. So the first thing you'll see at the very top is your overview tab and your section tab. All right. And we'll start with the overview tab. It's going to index all of your issues, whereas your section tab will only show you by section. So the first thing you'll see is this graph. It's a line graph that shows you your accessibility score over time. Okay. And what you'll notice is that each of these little dots here are kind of time sensitive. So when I press 2012, 2013, the graphic data down here will reflect that. If I wanted to go by month, I could go up here and just click on by month. And I can start to see kind of where my accessibility started to drop off. Not that that really makes a difference, but it could be for curiosity's sake. Okay. So now I'm going to head down into the 2017, 2018 area because I think that's where we should focus.
Okay. On a webinar, so hold on, I gotta keep walking in and out.
And so you'll see that down here I have 4 different pieces of graphic data that could be really more of interest than anything. This isn't going to be part of your report. You can see just how many sections you have in the site, and you can see that you have almost 30 more sections than last year, which could be something interesting for you guys. You then see the total number of files you have on the site, and you can see them categorized. So you have over 2,000 PDFs, 294 docs, 39 presentations, and 3,000 images. 779 pages, and then an overall accessibility score of 67%, which is down from last year by 30%. And actually, it kind of makes sense when you see this because you can see that you have 30 more sections than last year and 30% lower than last year, which means that your new sections, right, obviously contribute to your lower accessibility score. Okay, and now's where it gets useful. All right. So down here are all of your issues. You can see all, which is every single issue. Okay, and that goes by commonality. So you can see that your most common error is that your PDFs don't have language sets, which, by the way, Mike, is a really easy problem to solve. It's going to be a little bit time consuming because you need to go into each document, but it's a low level problem. All right. You can see here, actually, it's green, which is considered minor. Was that a question, Mike?
No, I said it's not a problem. I just have to do that like over 2,500 times.
About 1,500, yeah. It would be 1428 of 26.
Oh, there we go.
So a little bit of relief there. But yeah, I mean that's you guys will like this. One of my clients threatened that this will be the new detention for his high schoolers, is literally giving the PDFs language sets so that he didn't have to do it. So I thought that was pretty funny. But you can see that all the documents here, all the issues here are indexed again by commonality down. And then you can start to see that it'll index them. So you have severe issues, which you have 2 severe issues, and those are scanned documents. You have major issues, and then you have minor issues. All right. So the severe issues are going to be, the ones you might want to start off with, just because again they're going to be they're your 0%. They're what bringing your score down, and so those are the ones you want to focus on first. The other ones are fairly minor. But we're going to go through each tab and just pick out a couple of each error just so you can kind of see how to use the tool. So we'll start with severe. And, this is going to be a pretty self-explanatory issue, but I, again, want to drill down. So the first issue that you can see is that the document is scanned but not OCR'd, which means that the document is just scanned, but optimal character recognition is not on, meaning that no screen reader would be able to access this document. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and you'll see here that it's 237 issues out of 2,626 PDFs. I'm going to press that. Okay. And then it's going to give you an explanation of the problem. So it says the documents are either entirely scanned or contain pages that are scanned. Screen readers are unable to convert these images into words, even if the image only consists of text, so people with screen readers or other assistive devices will not be able to read those pages. Scanned documents, especially those of poor quality or those containing handwriting, can be difficult to read for everyone. They also have other usability issues, such as not being able to search inside the document. All right, and so there's my description. Now I can see the sections with this issue, and they're going to start with the section with the lowest accessibility score. All right, so it says, in the Title I section, there's 121 instances of this error, okay? And the overall accessibility score of the Title I section is 12%. I'm going to go ahead and drill into it. And now I have all the PDFs within this section and their accessibility scores. So we know that this is a scanned document, so it's automatically going to get a 0%. And so I will press there. And as you can see, this is a scanned document. I'm not sure if this is something that you would legally need online, because I know that there are certain board documents that you would legally need online. And so for this sign-in sheet, you would probably want to, if you do need those attendance sheets online going forward, you'd probably want to create a digital version of them just so they would be accessible. But yeah, this would be considered a 0% accessibility score.
Can't really fix that, can we?
Cannot unfix that. Okay, and
but
so
you have a lot of important people here.
Yes, those are really very important people. Yeah, for that, if you create a table on a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word document, then you can absolutely post it online. But for this type of thing, I don't know if, again, I'm not sure if this is a legal piece, but if it's just a who was there moment, you could always have the receptionist or whoever's taking notes, the secretary, just jot down who was there.
Could that not be changed to a JPEG or an image file instead of a PDF?
Oh, it sure could, but if that happens, you would need to apply alternative text.
Alternative text, how, if it's a JPEG or an image?
Yeah, so what you would need to do in that case is you would need to either write it into the alternative text field, which would likely be impossible just because of the amount of characters. And so what you would actually need to end up doing regardless is basically creating a document that says who was there and then adding it to the image. So if you're going to do that, you might as well just digitalize the sign-in sheet.
I mean, you couldn't just describe what the document was instead of actually...
No, oh, sorry about that. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
Well, you can't really just describe it as a document, a sign-in sheet, because it doesn't tell you specifically who signed in.
That's correct. That's absolutely right. So that's kind of the main point, is that if you have a image with words on it, all of the words need to be equal access. And so even though it doesn't necessarily, like, you might say to yourself, why do I care, if Tanya Williams was there specifically? It doesn't matter. Again, equal access is important.
Okay, so if it's there with names, it actually has to be... Okay, I understand now.
Yeah. And so again, a workaround would probably be just creating a table or like a digitalized Google Doc sign-in sheet or something like, or again, having the receptionist just say like, this person was there, or these people were there, and then listing them. Okay. All right, let's take a look at another. Well, actually, we get the idea from scanned documents, but yeah, so those are your issues, and yeah, all right. So we'll go back And the way to go back is just by following the breadcrumbs back. So I go back to issue and then back to overview. And we'll take a look at that other severe issue, which is the document is malformed, which I actually don't know what that means. So I'm kind of curious. So let's take a look. Okay. That means that there's something wrong with the PDF.
And delete it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't delete.
You can't delete from here. What you would do is actually go. So there's a little
documents that are not accessible. What's up with that, Emily?
So what I would do is if you want to just delete it, honestly, I would just go to the section. So there's a little button that says go to section. And it will take you here.
Where? Go back again. Let me see that.
Right here.
Wow.
And so for that, all you would do is then you would just go ahead and open up the section, edit page, find the document and delete it. So where is the document? In here, probably?
Free games documentation. I don't know. Oh, great. That's on the board site?
That would be, let's see. So it says, the August 13th, 2012 work session approved minutes PDF. And so I'd probably go through and just find that it says 2015. So maybe it's in there. Yeah. Okay. And it's going to scan all active and inactive documents, but it's not going to scan your files and folders. So if you happen to have something like in a file library and it's inactive, it's still going to scan it. And so if you're not using it, you might as well delete it anyway. All right, so I'm going to go back to the issue. And let's take a look at some major issues. So the other thing that you'll notice, you don't see this in severe because they're both having to do with document. But the distinction that it will make is it will say if it's a document, if the error is within a document, it will say document. And if it's within the website, it'll say HTML. So HTML, right, versus document. All right, so let's take a look first at the untagged PDFs. This is a really easy fix. And actually, Mike, if you know how to solve this problem, I can always bypass it. But it might be useful for your web. Actually, I'll just go for it. So there are going to be certain things that you see that are extremely simple to fix. But of course, at this volume, it's going to take you a little bit of time, but it is an extremely easy thing to fix. So this one says the document is untagged, which basically means that the PDF needs to be tagged as a PDF. So if I go in here, again, we have Title 1. And I'll grab that 1314 SIP. Now, if I was to download this, okay, and open it up with my PDF viewer, there's going to be a setting that literally says tools. If you go to tools, there'll be a little thing that says accessibility, and then it'll say add tag. I'm actually sending that over our control panel here. Okay, and all you need to do is it just says add tag, and that's it. You would just add the tag, choose the file, and save. Going forward, of course, that'll now be part of your workflow, but since it hadn't happened before, this is something that you'll need to go back and do with all of your PDFs.
Do that in my spare time.
Yep. Detention, I'm telling you. All right, so now we'll go back here. Let's take a look at an HTML issue. Okay, so the HTML content has contrast issues. So let's try again my contrast moment. And I do have a feeling that I know what's going on here. So we'll go to just a random, we'll go to transportation, and we'll go to the transportation contacts page. Okay, and as I said before, I really feel that it's these yellows and oranges. I'm going to try again and see if it's going to give me a little bit less of a headache. But for whatever reason, it doesn't like this orange, which is kind of strange, guys.
So I deleted that malformed document. Yep. When will it show that it's been resolved?
So it'll be later today that your scan will get or that your site will be rescanned, and then you'll be able to see that reflected.
Okay, sorry for interrupting.
No, please. I taught 4th grade. Interruptions are my comfort zone. I'm fine. All right, so let's see. I really want to grab this orange because I had it before and now I don't understand why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up an incognito window and see if it's just because I'm signed in for whatever very strange reason. Oops. Refresh. And let me copy it. Where's my incognito window? Man. My contrast analyzer is not on my incognito window. That's okay. I'll just open up a new window. We'll get that guy in there. We're going to go ahead and sign out, which might kick me out of the site, but that's okay. I can get back in. And let's see what we can do here. Man. All right, that's okay. We are going to find another place to grab that orange or yellow. Okay, super strange. But yeah, I do have a feeling that it is that. I really, really do. And so what you would want to do with that is, again, you're going to want to download that dropper. I know that I'm not making it look very good right now, but it really is glitching. And so, which I guess happens from time to time.
I've already downloaded it. I trust you.
Awesome. Yeah, great. And so at that point, you would just, again, do the thing where you kind of put it in the background color. And actually, I'll take a look and see if we can kind of find it. So here's my oranges. And again, I mean, this is not going to be exact, unfortunately, but it's close enough. And so I'm going to see what happens when we do the white. And you'll notice that it would be a fail for orange and white, or at least most shades of orange. And you'll want to change that. And for yellow as well. It's really difficult to get a yellow that works well with white, even if it is kind of that marigold color that you guys have. And so you're going to want to probably consider a different set of colors. And you know how to do that, Mike, to change your colors in your settings.
Mike,
yes.
Am I still correct in saying that our pages and our district pages are locked in our color settings?
No, your color settings are not locked. You can go in and change them in your template. You don't have to do that. You just, in the blue bar at the top where your site is, you click on Settings, Advanced, and then click on the name beside your template.
Yeah, I'll show you guys that.
Yeah.
So by the way, sorry, I just dragged up that orange, and yeah. All right, so let me show you, Carrie, what Mike is talking about. So in Site Manager, I signed out, so now I'm going to sign back in. So in Site Manager, and even if you're a sub-site director, so I'll go to a different site just to show you. I'll go to CC Griffin. Up in Settings, if you go to Advanced, you're going to see a picture of your template, okay? And next to the picture of your template, it's going to say Change. Okay, where it says Template Colors, that's where you manipulate your different colors. Now, CC Griffin, it doesn't look like they have a lot to worry about. Okay. And Carrie, in order to answer, or just to answer your question, is this something that you should have been aware of at the time you were initially setting up your web pages? It really varies from district to district. OCR, accessibility is becoming a buzzword right now. A lot of people were totally unaware. Blackboard did not require it or push it until it started being more of a legal issue. and people, our clients started getting OCR complaints. And so because of that, now there's this big push to make sure that everybody's aware. But should you have been aware? Not necessarily.
Well, and that's what I was wondering about, the titles, the tagging, just setting up different smaller aspects. Should we have been doing that all along? But if Mike hasn't been doing it, then I don't feel as bad.
Right, exactly. I mean, please don't feel bad. This is a newer thing for a lot of people, and there are districts in way worse shape than you guys. It's just kind of about when everyone is made aware and then decides to get going. But I'm not sure why you're here, if you guys have already had an OCR complaint or not. But it's really, really great to be proactive. And what a lot of districts are doing is they're kind of saying to themselves, it's crazy to have to go back and fix everything that's inaccessible. And so a lot of people aren't doing that. They're just kind of saying that going forward, this is going to be their protocol from now on. And that way, in a year or whatever, there won't be any inaccessible stuff left on your pages. You'll just be left with your new stuff. So yeah, it's you guys and everybody else that's currently dealing with this problem.
And that's my next question for Ronnie and for Mike. Are we going to have information that you're going to share with us? Are we going to have a time frame that you want us to start moving forward with our changes? Like our web page?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ronnie, I think Carrie was done asking our question, which is just, do you guys have any expectations for your staff?
I think that going forward from leaving here out of today, anything that we are adding, we all need to make sure that we are making sure that it is accessible and within the realm of what we've sat through this morning to learn how to do. I wouldn't want us to keep putting, uploading PDFs that didn't have the right tagging on them, or pictures that weren't tagged right, or images that weren't tagged right, or anything like that, since we now know how to do it and that we can do it and that we are supposed to be doing it.
And the corrections that we're going to get when we get access to this piece, is there a time frame for like our piece of the corrections? Because I saw our name pop up for some of those PDF documents. I mean, we had 14 of them out there, which isn't bad in comparison, but obviously we're going to want to fix our part of that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that there will be
have a schedule.
There will be a process implemented. We've not developed one yet because we really don't. We're not towards the end of the timeline where everybody even knows what their issues are. And so we want to first give you guys a chance to, we train the trainers and the trainers train our staff. We want to get all that into place so people are just aware that these are issues and kind of get an overview of what their own personal website holds as far as what needs to be fixed. And then give a good bit of time and opportunity to just fix those on their own before we start pushing a timeline or a deadline when everything has to be done by. Because as you fix them, there'll be questions. So I think this is a long process, and as long as we're working towards a goal of becoming compliant as possible and being familiar with how to create from the beginning a accessible, rich web page, I think you probably won't see any deadlines in the near future. I don't think. Does that answer your question?
Perfectly.
Cool. Okay, good. All right, so let's just continue to look through a couple of these. And again, I have a feeling that all of these have to do with that orange or yellow. So I'll just take another look. Yeah, so once you change those, guys, you're going to have a whole different report. So go ahead and take a look at that later today.
And I wanted to ask, I see lots of contrast between the orange and the blue behind it. So I don't understand why that would not, Are you talking about the text and the
Yeah. Yeah, it's the white and the orange. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, and the white and the yellow. Exactly. So even something as small as that is obviously going to come up in the report. And so once you change that, I think that these headings would be, would be channel bar colors and then app name colors. Okay. And yeah, I mean, I agree. I see contrast as well, but I guess that's because I have full color vision.
Right.
You know. All right, so we'll go back to the issue. Let's take another look at.
Is it a delicate balance between colors that are that offer the fair amount of contrast and just severely ugly? Everything's going to look the same out on the web if it's all. I mean, that tool, I couldn't get it to work either. But does it offer you choices that would make it compliant?
It would. So this is what you'll do. So here on where's the web aim? There are these sliders. So what I did before is I actually took a piece of your site before, and I don't know why it's not working now, but I'll go back to the history so that I can show you your orange, which is this. It's the FF804 or FF8400. And I'll stick it into the background section here, and that's going to come up. And then I'm going to go to the white. Okay. And so what you'll do here is you can slide, like if you make it just a little bit darker. Oh, I guess I just went into the wrong area. But it'll let you slide along your oranges until you get that pass. And of course, once you get the pass, it's maybe a little too dark. And so for this, you can actually start playing with your fonts as well and seeing what would happen to make it accessible. It looks like black on orange would work. And so you can use your slider. You can also use, so up on your little extension, it's going to have the palette browser. And so you can also sample different pieces from here, grab their hex code. Okay, so here's this FF803E. Let's see if we can get this one to work. And I can just, again, plop that in here and then start playing with it and see if it's going to work as well. So, you can kind of be creative here and eventually come up with something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit of a process. But if you you can also just skip over changing these entirely and just make your font black. So that's also food for thought. All right, let's take a look at a minor issue or two. All right, so this one's, okay, so let's take a look. Actually, I was looking for this one specifically. There's going to be some of these problems, guys, that you're not going to be able to solve on your own, all right? And that's because they could be template issues, not like color contrast, like links, all right? So let's take a look at the one that says the HTML content contains links without discernible text. Let's take a look. And human resources comes up as the first one, so that's what we'll take a look at. And we'll go into the substitutes page. Okay. So there are some links on this page, okay? But all of these links look accessible enough. I mean, there's no alternative text within them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they're talking about. This is what I'm talking about. It's your breadcrumbs. Okay, and so if you decide to add alternative text to one of these pages, because you'll need to do that anyway, and then Ally is still picking up a link problem on this page, it's our issue to deal with, and that's when you'll pick up the phone or your email and call support and let them know that, not only do we need our heading level 1 fixed, but also please take a look at our breadcrumbs and fix those. Okay, so essentially our support line is going to be there for you for all of the issues that you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't find the error. This is not my problem. I just tried to fix it and it didn't work. Then if you did that, if you tried to fix it and it didn't work, that means that it's something that we have done that you will need to ask us to fix. Okay, and it really is as easy as sending support an email. Again, we're very dedicated to our early adopters. We really want to try and change things for you on a timely rate. And so if you are running into those problems, just pick up the phone. Don't even waste your own time, and just let us know that this is something that we will need to be fixing. All right. And then let's do one more minor issue. And heading structure. So HTML content does not have appropriate heading structure. Let's go take a look. Here in driver's ed. And we'll go to registration information. Okay, so it looks like each of these would likely need to be heading level 2s. So all I would go through and do is make sure that these are level 2s. Okay, and now that you're aware of what a heading is, it'll be a lot easier for you to understand what's going on there. All right, so that is the overview tab. You'll notice that each section here has an export if you want to export your report. And I just wanted to show you the section view as well. So here's the section view tab. And this is kind of the same thing. It just goes by section. So if you wanted to, you can look for your individual section or whatever. And then you can see how many items within the section and an overall accessibility score. And from there, you can go into the section and it will give you, some data. It'll say how many documents or how many PDFs, how many images, how many Word documents, and how many presentations, how many pages, and then an overall accessibility score. Now, this is what I've been looking for. When you have 100% issue, and again, it's that same issue that HTML contains links without discernible text, this is 100% our issue. When you have 100% of something, that means it's on every single page within the section, or every single error, every single piece of this section has this problem. That means it's a template issue. And so again, you'll want to have support, Mike, when you email them about the headings, have them take a look at your quote unquote links without discernible text, which is often going to parallel to breadcrumbs.
Well, do you know if in the future Ally is going to, like if I click on a page looking for redundant link text or something like that, what was it? It's called HTML has links or buttons with redundant text.
Yeah, sure.
You know, if I click on that, one day in a perfect world, is Ally going to have a box around that so I don't have to guess what it is on the page?
Yeah, that's the plan for phase 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that would be wonderful. And in full transparency, some people are using this tool along with a accessibility checker as well, so that it will show them on the page.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can see using this tool just to find the copyright violations, because now I can locate files where they live.
Sure. Right.
I see the report and not be able to find them.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. So it's again phase 1A. So.
Okay.
All right, so that's kind of a look at Ally, guys. And what I like to tell my clients is that it's a pretty simple tool to use, at least at this point. As new features become available, Mike will get an email. From what I understand, Ronnie probably will too, and they can then start sending them out to you guys, to your sub-site directors. But bear with us, the Ally team is working kind of round the clock, just understanding the issues that have come up with Ally. And so we're hoping to get those phase 1B and phase 2 out for you kind of as soon as possible. But when you have problems, okay, you will email support. It is wcmsupport@blackboard.com, but I will be linking to that in your follow-up email, along with a whole bunch of other stuff, including my PowerPoint presentations, both of them, and that list of resources, along with my contact information, which you guys are welcome to take down now. Here it is. Okay. And that number will text, or you can call me, and this email address will come to me kind of round the clock. And we can solve these issues together. If I don't have the answers to your problems, which is possible, I'm not an engineer, but I will have answers for you as to who will have those answers for you. So just be in touch with me and kind of use me as your go-to person, along with Angie, who's your project manager for Ally. But before I let you guys go and get ready for the next group that's coming in, are there any questions, comments, concerns?
Hey, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so sometimes when we post from a district standpoint, we post in our articles and that sort of thing, we embed posts off of like third-party social media accounts, Facebook pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Are there guidelines around that being accessible? Is that okay for us to do? Usually we do that because we have a multitude of pictures that we post on our Facebook, and we want to make sure people on the web get to see the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice anything flag on the report, but so does that mean we're good?
Yeah, great question. Facebook is an accessible website. So having an embedded feed from Facebook is fine. Same with Twitter. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think of other. If you embed a YouTube video, it needs to be captioned, but in its like the embedded link itself would be accessible.
Okay, so we don't need to put, I guess, within the content part, like, you know, Facebook link below or something like that. Like it's kind of, if I have a reader, it will tell me that there's an embedded Facebook link.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good question. Absolutely.
All right. Cool. Okay.
Other questions, guys? That was a great start for sure. Okay. I know that was a lot of information, so I understand if you guys are kind of, if your brains are a little bit like done. And so if these questions occur to you later on, just call, text, email, okay? Either myself or Angie Malicio or your webmasters themselves who can also get in touch with me. This is a process. We're in it together, I promise. And we are aware that, you know, it's not as perfect as it will be one day. So we, again, appreciate you guys being our early adopters. And we'll be here for you to solve your problems as they occur. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stick on the line for a couple of minutes in case any of you guys want to have a chat or ask me questions. But Mike and Ronnie, I will be back at your 12 o'clock. Yes, 12 o'clock? Yes. No, your 1 o'clock. My apologies. It's a little early over here, everybody. And then we'll start again.
Okay.
All right. All right, you guys. Thank you. You've all been fantastic. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you.
Excellent. Okay, so talk to you guys in an hour.
All right. Are you still on there, Tilly?
Yes, I am. Yes.
I have another question.
We have another question.
Board people.
Yeah.
I have a question about the links and like I guess the alternative text on there. So if I was gonna put a link that said I don't know, an accessible link, and I highlight it and I hyperlink it, and I go in and I change the alt text, do I only need to put text that describes the link if it's not opening in a new window?
If it is opening in a new window.
So I only need to put alternative text if I'm opening a link in a new window?
That is correct. If it's like an internal link and it opens in the same window, you don't need to put alternative text.
Okay. Okay. Nothing at all. Not even describing the link.
Nothing at all. You would just need to do that clickable text, but you would not need to put any alternative text.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry. I should clarify that one.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem.
When will we get a copy of the report that shows all of our issues?
I can run you one.
Oh, you have it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
It's right there. I can export it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the subsites will get them later today. Like as when I'm done with your training and I do what's called closing the engagement, the Ally team will get in there and they'll run your report again, and then they'll add it to all of your subsites as well. So by end of day, that will be implemented.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Which I guess the idea is that everyone gets trained before we give it to your sub-site directors, and that's why it's not on there yet. But again, as early as, minutes within after our session.
Okay. All right, awesome. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm going to go ahead and export that recording, and I'll get it to you kind of later today. And I'm going to send you guys one email after our second session as opposed to 2 follow-up emails. Does that work for you?
That's perfectly fine.
Okay, great. All right, you guys, I'll chat with you in an hour. Enjoy your break.
All right, you too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.